Okay, welcome back to AGD459 New Media. We're doing the second machine illustration project. Um, so what I've done is that I have set up an A3 format, illustrator file, um, landscape format. Mainly I'm going to be working in landscape format basically because of the fact that stipple generator likes landscape format files. Also, another thing that I'm going to do is that I'm going to set up rulers. Mainly, why do I do this? Basically, because of the mainly because of the fact that since the machine we're using goes to A3, it can technically go on, it can technically go over the full A3 area. But here's a couple things. One, if you go and cover the whole area, it's going to take a lot more time. And then also on the other hand, it gives us the possibility, if we're completely at the edge, for the pen to drop and get caught on the edge of the paper, and that's not good either. So I'm going to really suggest that we have at least a 2 or 3 centimeter edge. And the thing is that that looks better. It gives it frames the image, and it's a better composition. So let's see here. Why aren't my rulers coming up? Oh, here we go. Show the rulers. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to set up maybe I'll just do 50 millimeters. That's 420. Up to about 370. And go down here to about 50 millimeters. And then take it from 300, take it to about 250. Okay. So that's not too bad. So also another thing that's super important, we need to have layers up. And in this case, we're going to need to make at least 7 or 8 layers. So, okay. So first of all, what we're going to do is that we're going to start bringing in all of these JPEGs, and we're going to start turning them into line drawings. And there's also the other thing that's kind of interesting with this particular process is that there's a lot of choices to make. Let's see. Okay, where did I put these? Oh, here we go, Google or Street. Okay, so glow, we're only going to do this in stipple generator. Don't worry about that. Let's just get started with the left front building. And we're just going to place it. And actually what I'm going to do now is this is going to be a little bit bigger than what I thought. And I'm just going to let Illustrator just center things up, and I'll adjust my guides, let them snap in place, and now we have with that in place. So I'm going to call this layer front right building, and okay, that's fine. So let's take this, and remember, this is the only time that I'm going to let you use image trace. But here's the interesting thing. I'll show you a couple different things that happened. Remember what happened with the previous one? Just using anything can look terrible. See, like technical drawing, that didn't work at all. Sketched art actually worked amazingly well. Let's see how this works. And by the way, you can use different ones at the same time. That's not bad. Let's take a look at black and white logo. Okay. And then let's take a look at 3 colors. By the way, why am I not doing high resolution photo and shades of gray? Because it's really looking for like 256 colors, and that's just going to create a whole lot of lines. And we don't want that much detail. We want to have things that we want to have artwork that's simple enough to be clear, but enough detail to make it interesting. So let's take a look at what happens with 3 colors. And it's almost done. I'm okay with that. Okay, so what we want to do is we want to view outlines. Actually, I'm going to go back to do tracing result with outlines. Actually, tracing result. So what we want to do is we want to get this. Somebody was showing me some of their work, and they were doing fills. And the thing is that the machine doesn't understand fills at all. Everything has to be outlines. So what we want to do is we want to do about 2 or 3 object expand, ungroup, expand, ungroup, just 2 or 3 expands. Because what happens is that, and I don't really know exactly how this happens, but when something gets traced, there are objects that get placed within objects, groups within groups, and you just want to expand that as much as possible so you can just get rid of the any possibility of not being able to get rid of fills or delete control points or anything like that. So I'm going to give this a black stroke and take care of that. And then that's a little bit of a problem. Let me see if I can. Let me see if I can just get rid of this black line. Now that'll probably work. Okay, so guess what? We've got our first layer done. And actually, I'll just call this front right. And I'll just go back to calling this layer 1. So, and honestly, what you do is that you just go through and you just do this just like you do this with all of the pieces. I'm going to say left red building. And to make sure that I'm on, I'm going to call this front red building. is. Okay. And guess what? We're going to do just what we did before. I think I'm going to try this sketch start thing. Because that seemed to work pretty well. Let me take a look at this with 3 colors. It may not work quite as well, but we'll see what happens. Takes a lot longer, and the thing is that with some of your Macs being a little bit older, this could take a while. So you may want to use something like this, like the sketch start, because it works a lot faster. And there's a lot of play involved in this, you know. So let's see how this works. And honestly, I don't think it's that much better. Do you? I don't think so. I'm just going to go back and I'm going to do the sketch start. Okay, I'm actually pretty happy with that. I'm going to expand and ungroup and expand again, and I'm going to get rid of the let's see here. I'll give it a black stroke, get rid of that, and let's see what happens. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to lock this front right. And honestly, it doesn't matter to the machine what color you make it, but what I'm going to do is that just for the sake of our own aesthetics, I'm going to turn this red, and I'm also going to take the stroke up to 2 pixels. So, all right. So let's do the same thing. Let's go down here to layer 5, and if you're saying, is the professor going to do this for all 7 layers? He is. And this is where things get more complex, honestly. And the other one is, and then the last one where we pull the channels apart. It isn't going to be quite so complex because we're going to be using 4 layers. So don't worry, this is the most complex one. For this, just because of the lack of detail, I think I'm probably going to use three colors. And can I do anything with it? No, I can't do anything. I'm good. And so far, this is actually sort of interesting. And I think I'm going to give this like a navy blue color. I think it's kind of ridiculous that it takes all this time with this pixel clustering. Okay. As we did before, expand, ungroup, expand again, and then, as I said, I'm going to give this kind of a blue stroke. I'm going to give this a no fill, take it up to 2 there. The other thing that's a little bit of a problem for me is this. There we go. That worked out fine. I don't want to have that frame around the image if I don't want it. So I'm going to call this rear left building. Okay. So let's see, what else do we have to work with? We've got the left. We did left front, the left rear, left. The PSD we don't want to deal with. We only basically have the rear buildings, the right buildings, and the street. So let's take care of this rear building. And I need to go on layer 4. Remember, don't put multiple things on the same layers. Okay. And you know what? That's exactly what I did. So, there we go. And I'll just center this up. By the way, one of the things you can do is you can choose not to have everything perfectly registered. That's an option. I'm going to try black and white logo on this. Because I made this really black and white. Yeah, that's not bad. Okay, let's expand this. No fill. I'm just going to give it a black stroke. Take it up to 3. And the other thing that I just don't like about this, I'm going to make sure and expand. I'm just going to make sure and expand and ungroup this a bit. Ungroup, expand. Ungroup, expand. And since we just have this little bit in here, and this is just an outline, I'm going to make sure and everything else is locked. And I'm going to use the node select tool. And I'm just going to get rid of that outer frame. So this is pretty cool. We've got this. And actually what I want to do is also select this. I want to use direct select tool. I want to take the stroke size down a bit to 0.1. I mean to 1 point. Anyway, it won't matter so much actually, because we'll be doing this with the pen. So I have 2 more pieces to do, and then within this tutorial, what I'm going to do is that I'm going to show you how to bring that glow in and bring in as an SVG, and then what happens is in the next tutorial, I'm going to bring in all the I'm going to bring in the different stipples. The thing is that I'm going to show you what it looks like with all the stipples in it, but I'm not going to use stipples on everything. Probably only this red building. So let's bring in the street. Because you don't have to use everything on everything, you know? It's just, you know, it isn't saying, oh, well, we have to use this. No, you don't have to use everything on everything, you know? You just don't. By the way, I'm going to say rear buildings. And actually, I think I made a mistake. Okay. Yep. I need to put that down on layer 3. And then let's get this lined up. So it registers. And then might be interesting to see what happens when we have 3 colors, because this has a lot of grayscale. So this will take a couple minutes. So after this, the only thing that we have to do yet is this right-hand side, and I think I'll use the sketched outlines with that. So in this initial pixel clustering, and so this will be the street, and then I'll just have this right-hand side. Actually, I'm only going to have. Oh, wait a second. The glow is going to be layer 7. But when we get done with this is going to have about 12, 13 layers. So, but I'm going to end this tutorial after we put the glow in, and that'll be that. So that's actually pretty cool. I'm going to expand it, ungroup it, expand it, expand it again, and then I'm going to give it no fill, and actually I'm going to do something maybe kind of cool. I'm going to give it a green outline. So, or you know what? Maybe what I'll do is I'll give it a dark gold outline, because I'm thinking about doing this in kind of a gold. Layer 3. I'll just select everything. Give it kind of a. Oh, wait a second. That's fill, no fill, and kind of a gold out. Why is that green? I'll take it anyway. Okay, and then what I'll do is I'll also get rid of the everything else is locked down. And I'll get rid of these lines since everything's broken apart. Oh, wait a second. That was just it being selected. So I'm going to call this street. And then let's call this right side buildings. And let's bring this in. And just like everything else. And notice how well everything's, and you know, since we separated everything, notice how well everything registers. You know what? That worked out pretty well. So I'm going to keep that. I'm going to expand, ungroup, expand, expand, and then I'm going to take out the fill, and I'll also give it a blue stroke, and that'll be fine. Okay. That's kind of cool. That works. So this is everything before we do the glow. And the last part we're going to do before I go in and really talk to you about doing the glows, what I'm going to do is that I'm going to just stipplegen. I'll just stipplegen the glow. Here it comes. And then we'll put that in. That'll be what they call an SVG file. Okay. And I know this thing sometimes can get a little frustrating. And so I'm going to go over here to Google Earth Street. Let me bring in the glow. See, that's working out pretty well. I really like to have the minimum dot size be a bit smaller. And that's pretty cool. 2,000 stipples for that. That's not bad. The one thing that I do like about this with this smaller size dot is that if you notice, this puts stipples all over the place. So the thing is that it's not going to interfere with the rest of the image very much. So let's just go and save this as glow.svg. And then I'm going to go glow.svg. And then that's it. So what I'm going to do is that let's go over to Illustrator just for a second, and this will be the last part of this particular part of the tutorial. The rest of it, we're going to go and make stipples for the rest of it, and then bring those in as additional layers. Since the glow is kind of an overlay, I'm going to put this as the top layer. And guess what? We can just place an SVG. It's a vector file. That's it. And the one thing that's a little bit difficult, though, with these things is the following: is that what you're probably going to have to do is you're probably going to have to play with this a lot. Because it doesn't give you a really nice set of dimensions, you know? You're going to have to bring things in, stretch them around a little bit. Until it fits. So this is kind of like the bad side of stipplegen. It doesn't play nice sometimes. And as you can see, this kind of works. But this is also kind of the artistic part of it, you know? So, okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to lock everything else into place. I'm going to go and I'm going to ungroup this thing. That means I'm ungrouping every single stipple in this entire piece. Going to expand everything. So what this is not going to be a group, it's going to be a set of things. I'm going to get rid of the fill. And actually, I'm going to give it like a bright yellow fill, and that's going to give us kind of a fake gold. So now what I'm going to do is that I'm going to take the direct selection tool, and I'm just going to clean these extra stipples out, because guess what? We don't need them. Actually, to tell you the truth, we don't really need any of the stipples anywhere except that glowy area. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to I'm just gonna do some rough stuff. I'm just gonna do some rough cutting and just generally kind of get most of the stipples out. It's okay if there's still a few left, you know. This tutorial is taking a little longer than I thought. Okay. So I'm going to call this Street View Part 1. That's it. So I'll leave it at Illustrator 2020, and that's fine. So this is our first part. I think I'm going to only place a couple of sets of stipples in the rest of this, but I am going to set it up with every piece being stippled. But I'm going to take a break and come back to this a little bit later. So, so this is the end of this part.